welcome everyone. I'm sure you already know who we have with us here tonight, but we're very excited to have Carson Jackson with us tonight to talk about his stunning exhibition that we're sitting in right now, Dance of the Untamed. Hopefully you also saw the show that was in this room immediately before the two exhibitions we have right now had Carson's work in it too, and hopefully you saw that too, because it was quite different, and I think it nicely showed the breadth of his practice. So a few practical notes. I know I'm very loud, or so Kelly always tells me, so hopefully you can hear me right now. I think Carson is going to be the same way, but if anyone has any trouble hearing, just let us know, because we do have microphones that we can use and get out. Also, for those watching on Facebook, we are streaming it live. If you have any questions, you can type them into the comments, and I can ask them. I can ask Carson here in the gallery. And then just for everybody, so you know, since we do stream them all live on Facebook, they stay on Facebook and you can watch anytime. And then we get a clean copy from Reggie, our videographer, and put that on YouTube and the website. So if you ever miss an artist talk, you can go to our YouTube channel, see it there, and also a video of the exhibition. So now, before I turn it over to Carson, a little bit about him. So Carson's descended from Cuban immigrants who sought freedom from the Castro regime here in the U.S. And perhaps it's from that lineage, we'll learn tonight, that is part of what drew him to the wild horses of the Outer Banks, which I think are a pretty fitting symbol of America and freedom. He is a self-taught artist who has taken classes in El Salvador, North Carolina, and of course here in Maine. He's currently the artist in residence at the Beavis Frank Gallery in Kittery. And over the past decade, his work has been shown extensively throughout southern Maine, New Hampshire, and North Carolina. And he's also taught classes here in Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. So just based on my own conversations with him, Carson is a very energetic and interesting speaker, so I think we're in for a real treat.
Thank you, John. Thank you all for coming tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about the series, Dance of the Untamed. But first, I'm going to have to take you back in time. Hannah, you get your time machine ready. You got it? All right. So my story begins in the vibrant heart of Cuban and Southern American culture, rooted in a family of resilience and survival. My grandparents, mother, and her siblings, who endured the struggles of the Castro regime. They instilled in me a certain freedom and resilience that I now pulses through my artwork. So, my grandfather, grandmother, mother, and 2 girls and 3 boys lived in Cuba. My grandfather was an anesthesiologist in Cuba. And like many people then, they had extreme distaste for the government. It's being corrupted, and so he decided to fight against the government there. So he fought with Castro's men in the rebellion against the government. But after a certain time, he realized that they were just as bad, if not worse, than the current government. So he left and went home. Not long after that, though, Castro's men came in the middle of the night and took him. Usually what would happen to people like this would be that they would be killed, and their bodies would be found somewhere a few days later. But that didn't happen, because the maid sprinted out the back door, ran through the grass to the neighbor's house, called the local radio station, where they announced live, Reinaldo Vallecillo is taken from his house by Castro's men, midnight. So as that was public knowledge, they couldn't kill him. So but they tortured him. And then they released him. And if it wasn't for that maid's being so courageous, I don't think I'd be here speaking to you now. I've never told this story in front of such a large audience. So what's the plan next? He's home with his family, safe, but they need to make a plan. Castro at the time was sending all the boys from the families into military camps. So their first course of action was to get the boys out of Cuba, which they did through a Catholic school program. So 3 boys out of Cuba. They're safe in the U.S. We got my grandparents and my mother, 6 years old, and her little sister. And they tried to escape many times. They had to get themselves out. So one of these times, my mom has told me since I was little this story, which is they paid someone to meet them with a boat. In the middle of the night, they're hiding in the tall marsh grass, waiting for the boat to arrive, which it never did. But who did arrive was Castro's men with flashlights, guns, looking for them. My mother and her little sister had to be silent. They're in the grass. These mosquitoes are biting them. If they make a peep, if they're discovered, they would have killed them immediately for trying to escape. So they survived that. They never got over by these kinds of plans. They ended up coming here legally on an airplane and reuniting with the boys, which at the time, the boys had forgotten their Spanish. And so they could only speak English, and it took them a while to remember how to communicate. So I grew up with these tales from an early age, and even though I was born in America, my family instilled in me certain values. Often when in my studio and I'm looking at like a blank canvas, I'll think about like them when their lives in America was just like a blank canvas. I mean, everything they lost, like the home you have, the gardens they nurtured, friends, traditions that they had was just all gone, never to be seen again. The wealth that they had built, all that. So obviously they weren't allowed to take anything with them of value. So my great-grandmother swallowed her wedding ring in Cuba right before she left so she could later retrieve it and have it. So it worked. So yeah, my grandmother learned English and then learned English and taught Spanish at a college. And my grandfather learned English, took his medical boards again, and became a doctor in the U.S. and worked at a VA helping veterans until he retired. So Abuelo would ask me complex problems when I was growing up. He would teach me survival skills. He would teach me critical thinking skills and how anything can be taken from you at any time, but what cannot be taken from you is what you have here and here. He told me to be a professional and be a master of my craft. What else? He also told me you cannot trust your money in the banks. But his teachings and guidance echoed in my heart, and it's guided my path from interventional radiology, my career in interventional radiology, to taking the leap and putting everything I have into my art. My heritage and the stories of my ancestors and the lessons I learned saving lives when every second counted has shaped my perspective and approach to art. So in interventional radiology tech, when I worked there, I, along with doctors and nurses, would help heal people that had things like internal bleeds or strokes or brain aneurysms. So, and other life-saving and life-improving procedures. I've worked with renowned surgeons out of UMass, and I was on the neurological stroke team. Every minute you're undiagnosed with a stroke, about 1.9 million brain cells die. So, I'd see people lose motor function and speech only to regain them after we finished, removing the clot or, helping them in whatever way. So I feel like healthcare has given me certain insights and perspectives which I bring to art. Like seeing the fragility and the resilience of life, I think it leads my art towards more vivid and emotional abstraction. So the intensity and focus I once used in healthcare, I pour into my paintings now. The roller coaster of emotions that I felt was an undeniable part of my reality, but it led to a creative block at one point. I couldn't paint for what seemed like an eternity. This unexpected emotions eventually became a wellspring of artistic inspiration for me. It wasn't until I realized that I could infuse these emotions into my artwork that transformed it, made it alive. So participating in intricate procedures and life-saving procedures, my artistry, once I got over the block, it flourished in ways I couldn't anticipate. And it wasn't just the triumphs, you could say, that gave me inspiration and moved on to my work. It was death. Yes, death, the undeniable reality of my profession. It gave me an outlet for the anguish. So I collected expired medical equipment then in my past life, and I used it to make my art. So I brought in a sample for you to see. Syringe attached to a catheter. And what this does is it snakes up veins or arteries to get to the problem spot or to find out where they need to be healed. So what I do with this is actually I use it in this one. I will draw up the paint, water down, and when you squeeze it, it flips around like this and adds so much randomness and untamed lines like I have in here. There's some underneath these layers, there's these marks. Yeah, and I feel like the use of my expired medical equipment, it bridges my past to my present, and it's like a metaphor for me. Tools that are traditionally used to heal people, transformed into instruments of artistic expression. In this exhibition, Dance of the Untamed, I explore the balance between the untamed and the tamed selves. It's a dialogue about the constraints of society juxtaposed with our inherent longing for freedom. Just as my ancestors had to learn to live in a world where they were more free, but they may have still felt constrained in a lot of ways, you know? This series has moved me to wonder how we balance this. I feel it's important to have or maintain a healthy communication with all sides of ourselves, right? Like I express the untamed lines here. Some like more delicate and refined lines here, here, some in here. And yeah, so I explore spiritual, physical, and emotional bodies. I like these tethers here could be something that is like constricting you, or you could be breaking out of it, or you could be snuggling into it, right? It's like the constraints that are pressed upon us, or like the limits we agree upon. So I'd like to ask you these questions to you all and have you think about the tamed and untamed sides of yourself. And if anyone has any insights to the balance they walk between these two, please share. Anybody? Anybody have any insights? And I don't know, the tamed, untamed, or anything, like how you feel about this subject matter?
Well, I can relate to the immigrating here and feeling, you know, like free, but also constrained. And I think children of immigrants like we are, it is a different environment for us to grow up in.
Yeah, it can be tricky. Yeah, not knowing the culture, the language, things being new.
Yeah.
I can see that.
And learning new cultural things,
Yeah.
you know, the closeness, how to keep your distance or not, you know, all these different signals that, you know, if you're from another country, it's different.
Yeah. Thank you for that perspective.
So I was just thinking, I feel many of us can relate to the feeling of constraint and freedom. You know, we're born into the world sort of wild and loud and free, running around as kids and acting up and playing cowboys and horses and jumping around and being playful, where society, starting with our parents, because they were taught the same thing, you know, little boy doesn't act out, little lady behaves herself. And I think a lot of us grow up carrying a lot of that restraint, and internally, like we were born from the process of genuine, nice, polite, kind person, and then underneath you have this other energy moving through you, you know, like you just want to sort of break free and, you know, become that free spirit again, as far as to dance and sing and celebrate, and to learn that it's okay to be that way even in public, or in a public setting, and as a group, you know, we learn to stay very quiet and not react and respond a lot to what's going on, and then to have that moment where somebody gives you the freedom and the space to be and create and share. So I can relate to that a lot, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yes?
Just that I feel like, you know, your person and your seem tamed right there, but this is obviously untamed and expressive, and so what art is for is to express yourself. So I feel like your untameness has come out.
Yeah, thank you. Glad we're recording this. Yeah, I guess just things I think about are like constraints or limits that have been imposed upon us. Or do you ever think about society's constraints that have tamed you? To go on to that, it's not about, it doesn't matter knowing the answers to these. It's okay not to have any answers to any of this, and I don't view tamed and untamed as good or bad. It's not like that. It's like it goes beyond that. So my inner child would say, we're born free, and then over time we're tamed. So yeah, born free, and then tamed over time. The question is to how to unlearn all this, to be untamed. Or even further, do we want to be untamed? What is a side of you not yet explored? How would you like to wander into your own wilderness? Are there any natural or untamed environment you'd like to explore? Inspired by the wild horses of the Outer Banks, whose strength and resilience mirror that of the human spirit. Their resilience I aim to draw parallels between the equine spirit and the human spirit. The horses that are untamed and free serve as a powerful metaphor for the journey of my family, whose tumultuous path to freedom from the Castro regime. I lived in the Outer Banks for many years, and some of my Cuban side still lives there, but we grew up island hopping, surfing, riding horses, actually, and the wild herds dotted these islands, and it's hypothesized that they swam there from defeated, sinking Spanish ships. But there could be other ways. It's just a hypothesis. So what did they do? They had to learn how to adapt. They came over from the boats with nothing. They were tamed, and now they have to learn how to be untamed. They have to learn how to find fresh drinking water, which is to dig under the sand, and the water naturally filters up and becomes fresh, or rain puddles and stuff like that. I've seen them do both. But there's obviously hurricanes, big hurricane season. So I could be so concerned about these horses after a hurricane, and the rising tides, the tornadoes spin off of these, the wind, the rain. But every time I would go check on them after the hurricane, they would be there together and strong. Through Dance of the Untamed, I seek to a space for reflection, to change perceptions and to spark a conversation about the beautifully chaotic dance of life. This collection is not just about my personal journey or experience. It's to celebrate the untamed spirit within all of us. So yeah, all I ask, if as you move through the collection, I'd like for you to see what or feel what emotions come for you, and engage with each piece, and see if it evokes some emotions within you, and to explore that. So let's celebrate the dance of light and shadow, color and form, and the stories that each one of these pieces tells. Thank you all for coming and listening to me. Do you have anybody have any questions? Yes.
So in terms of going with yellow, ochre, and black, and white, what's, in terms of having that as your palette?
Yes,
what does it
yeah.
mean to you, and how does that reflect everything you talked about?
Oh, yeah, very much. Yeah, the palette's important. It represents a celebration. It represents color of the sun, the gold, yellow. I dreamed in yellow for a time. The ochre, as that you mentioned earlier, the original cave painters used yellow ochre a lot in their paintings. It was readily available to them, and that was something I was attempting to tap into.
I noticed that one is that a later piece? That one there?
The two large ones, this one and the one in the other room, are new comparatively. This is a window, okay? So like this piece here, it shows the multiple dimensions within us. And so this window here was a part of me I wanted to explore. So to delve into this part. And what I found is that it was endless. It was like my herd was waiting for me to run wild. So I zoomed into this one and to bring it out more. And here, the reason I leave my original pencil drawings, some of it number 2, was to remember the past, to bring it to the present, to show the rawness, and raw emotion or raw feelings we sometimes have. How sometimes we'll feel a feeling and not know why it's there. And the layers, 7 layers. For this one, I hung off from the ceiling so that my arm could be more like a dance, and let gravity move it a different way. Then here, I'm pushing against gravity this way. If I'm hanging like this and suspended, it allowed me to show what I mean or how I feel. And then I put it above me and laid down so that gravity was fighting against me. So it's like the layers of ourselves, or myself, peeled back, moved forward, and a little bit wild.
So were you flipping back and forth from on your back to hanging, or was it like each layer was one, then the other, and kind of
well, each layer, so hanging for one layer, the second layer was like a bit of hanging and then up, and then down, and then so every other about. I mixed it in more sparsely with moving up because it needed to be more fluid. Yes, and if anyone has.
So what kind of music do you listen to when you paint? Are you dancing when you paint? Down on your back? What are you feeling like?
A lot of classical or Hans Zimmer. or sometimes Cuban music, a lot of that. Sometimes rap, sometimes new, funky, weird music. But I have a record player. I thought I would use it a lot more, but I use it up until I get into the zone, and then I can't do it because I can't keep flipping it when I'm in the process. So usually I just play from speakers on my phone, and so it continues to go. And it does change up. These lines I want to talk to you about. These, the delicate, refined lines, are the time when I painted this, I was feeling like very out of control, not in control of the outcomes of a lot of things going on in my life like that. Like, I started to feel like marionette strings, just going through motions maybe, or and sometimes these things are invisible, or our connections with others, like that pull us in a certain way or certain behavior. So I painted these thin ones so that you can get far enough distance. And luckily at Cove Street Arts, you have the space to get back until you can't see them anymore. So I'd like you all to do that at least once while you're here. Just see how far it takes you to not see them. Oh, yes, very much. Every,
Cool and interesting, sort of. Also, it sort of makes me think it goes with what we're talking about in the sense that the texture itself makes it sort of look like the cave wall, sort of the unfinished, untamed cave wall. But obviously, to create that on a canvas, it has to be very tamed.
yeah. Oh, yes, definitely, darling. This one is where I'm headed next. That's the exciting part about it. But everyone has seen it, right? So as far as the technique, it was molding paste, many layers, and blended it up into the canvas to make the lip look like this. And then pumice is a very textural coarse material that is in the middle. This one was like, I was thinking, cave wall. And that's how all this series started, was in a basement, in a cabin in the woods. We lost power, and I only had a headlamp. And I was painting the first one to this series, 24 by 24. And I felt like I was in my own little cave. I could only see what was in front of me, which helped with my distractions. And that's where this started to come up. But so, the piece is it's just really cave wall, and I kind of there's a lot of meaning for all these little details in this one, but I think of it like almost like shaking the earth a bit too. And traveling through time. Any specific questions?
Is your technique in painting, is it as quick as days, hours for painting? I mean, how much time for painting?
Sometimes months. On these large ones, months, many months. This one, many months. This one, Just all depends on if I know what the hell I'm doing. A lot of times I don't know where it's going to go when I start it. I mean, most of the time. And it can take some time to develop in my mind and then let it speak to me. I have to have more than one painting going on at a time. That's a given for me, because this can be in all different progress, and I need them to speak to me in a way, or I need to look away from it, focus on something else, and come back to it. It's like sometimes things we're passionate about, we have to do that with. leave it for a little bit, or change your mind up a little bit. And then you come back to it with new perspective.
Do you have a favorite piece here? That really is your, something you're really super excited about when you see it? It brings like an extra level to you?
All of them, really. All of them. I mean, I walked in now to do this speech, and I just can't stop looking at this one and being drawn to it. This one always has a special place in my heart. And these two larger ones, of course, because it's so exciting to wear what's coming next.
So you feel these pieces, when you talk about them, you really light up a lot, especially this one here. And when I first walked in, I heard you talk to somebody saying this is kind of the direction you're going. So
Yeah.
I'll combine my questions. The first question was when you were talking about using the catheter and syringe to get started, to develop an idea, maybe to see lines. That's kind of what I heard you saying. Do you feel like you don't need to do that now? Like you know where you're going? There's not a need to sort of abstractly obscure it, abstractly start it, or to get it that you already have in your mind. So if you were presented with a blank canvas right now, would you just have at it, or do you think you would start to explore?
You mean go for it right away, or stop and think about it? And
Would you need to, do something to take away the white before you got started, or to inspire and encourage you to see something, or do you already have a vision of where you want to go?
If I had something here right now, I'd just throw paint on it, and I would go for it. And but I do see a vision too. I see where I want to go next, very pointedly. Yeah.
Once you start, and then you see where you're gonna go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But in this particular time, I can see this expanding off of this one. I'm to study the cave painters, actually go to these places across the world, so I can see them myself. So I see more colors coming in, more of like the red oxide, and that the crack though, that's going to be present probably in all of them. I can see that, and it's just going to drip different or mean different. And then, yeah, the meaning too comes, like you two are saying, after you start it, and it's like living and breathing already. It's it just like it inspires you, inspires you to create, but inspires you to keep going.
How can you tell when a piece is finished?
I've with this series actually, I had to learn to stop, especially this one. Sometimes what I'll do is crazy, but I show progresses of my paintings. I surprise people that aren't in the arts. So just anybody throughout my daily life, or actually children, like a neighbor's kid, Robbie, I could say, hey, what do you see here? And he's like, oh, I see all this, I see this, I see this. Right? And he's like, because they don't have the block there. And so he can see all this stuff. And this one, like before it started. And then, I'm like, and I might show someone that I trust, to tell me the truth. And they're like, stop, don't do anything else. People keep telling me to stop. Make one strike, and just stop. That's it. And no, I don't stop. I know when it's time to stop because I'm satisfied. But I've gone through that so many times, overworking a piece. think I had to get it out of my system.
And if you overwork a piece, do you just not use it, or
No.
paint over it again?
Yeah. Fix it, or I've I've painted them white. I mean, I've used the back texture just to create something else. You know.
Do you dream about doing these paintings, or daydream, like you're driving, or like, how do you get inspired to get started?
Mm-hmm. Good question, Reggie. Reggie knows me. I do have dreams. Usually the dreams come when I'm already in it. So when I'm surrounded by these paintings and I'm moving through it, and I dream the dream I'll never forget of this series. I was spending the night in the studio. I have a fireplace in the studio. It's like my own little cave. And I had this dream where where it's all these yellows that I'm painting with, but it's like you've been to it's amusement park or a roller coaster, and how you walk underneath the big like this. So big tracks of these black lines and white lines that I'm playing with, just moving through me, and it's like over top of me, and I'm inside of it. So I think I'm inside the paintings, actually. And then, how do I get started? I think you asked. To get started, well, this is a different, but usually to get started, I have to just to let it come to me. It's a balance of letting it come to me and going after certain concepts or ideas. Yeah, so it can be colors that inspire me, or certain lines, or I just, there was a Japanese painter, a famous guy, I don't know who it was, but he would he had long hair, and dip his hair in paint, and then dance and spin his hair at the paintings, and then sit back and look at them for weeks, and then let it tell him what it wants to be, like, oh, it's a cityscape and stuff like that. I do a bit of that. Just using things that you wouldn't think about using to create randomness. Usually I hone these skills, like I said, I was self-taught, and largely I painted with people, really great masters from all over the world that I would meet during my travels. And I learned like little techniques here and there, but I developed my own styles many times, my own unique styles, whether I'm just doing something with a palette knife phase, or my using a lot of water, like watercolor paintings. But and this series is a combination of bits of my styles that I've developed over many years of painting. And I've incorporated all these things in here. All my styles. That's why, each painting is a universe in its own.
Do your other paintings or the series, are they similar colors, or do you deal with horses and death and things you talk about these themes, or are they totally different?
No, not totally different, but yes, totally different. Sometimes, yes, horses are a main theme for me, and it's riding them and know the movement that they make, that you sync up with them when you're emotionally synced up with them too, and the way they breathe too on you. So these moments, if I channel in my work, then I can move on the canvas with it. And my other series, if I am inspired by something that's not yellow at all, I can paint anything yellow, but if I want to experiment with other colors, I do. I don't hold myself back. I use different colors, different reasons for making different series. I series that are more like abstract with yellows and blues. Pinks. Sorry, pinks and blues, and I will go anywhere. A lot of this experimenting with new colors and stuff, though it fails, I hate it, and I don't pursue certain artistic projects. Mm.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm curious about the two pieces that I think are yours in the glass, what do they call them?
Yeah, and the cube.
Yeah, the glass thing. Are those two of yours?
They are.
And tell me about that. I mean, that's completely different.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. It's different. It's the time I lost power. It was only just for a few days. It wasn't for a week, but it took me about a week and a half to create the 4. Not even finish them, but just actually get them started. These two, 24 inches, with the horse figures, and those two. And I was really trying to imagine if you took like a microscope and then looking at one of these images with a microscope and then jumble it up and muddle the composition until you find something that is beautiful. So it's like another way of looking at everything around you.
Is any artist inspired you? Do you have any artists that get you kind of in a certain direction at all, or films or any other kind of inspiration? Obviously, what you experienced, but I was curious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are, some of them don't paint anymore, though. So the artists that inspire me, they don't paint anymore. They've transformed. They still make art in a way, but yeah, I'm inspired by a few artists, but I'm just inspired by art.
Can you explain the death part of it you talked about earlier, the connection? I was just a little bit more about that, how that connects.
Death. Seeing people die in front of me, it was going through all this, seeing people suffer so much, it really affected me, even though I kind of didn't realize it, and prevented me from creating, from painting for a while, until I had to learn how to use that and to use it and let it come out in my paintings. Yes.
Is that other instrument you were using, the medical, is that a catheter?
Mm-hmm.
So did you use x-rays or some kind of ultrasound as you did that procedure? Because I kind of feel like, I don't know, I don't know if I didn't read those studies or those, I feel like those are like looking at the animal in almost like an x-ray.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
I
groovy.
just didn't know if you used x-rays, or you probably used ultrasound more to guide that catheter, and if that's, I like that you said that you used it, the way you used it in your art is interesting. It is from like your professional development from your other job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we use a lot of radiation. We did use radiation in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So I did it medical field for 13 years, and then back in school, I remember putting flowers in barium and letting them soak up the radiopaque substance. And you lay it down and take X-ray of it. It'd be beautiful outlines of the flowers, where the veins go, and how it feeds and nurtures itself.
I guess you use radioactive dye, so it will illuminate.
No, yes, yeah. That's what you could inject into the catheter, for instance, if you had it here, and it goes up and then lights up the entire blood. Yes, the arteries that fill the brain, and it's beautiful. It looks like the tree of life. Imagine, this is what it looks like.
What's your next series? What's your next project?
Next project is Origins, and it's delving into the energy of the original artist more. I want to see how it feels. I mean, it's interesting because in these cave where they found these paintings, they're so far in, or sometimes really, really high, and so they took time. They cared about it. It wasn't just, if it was a way to communicate, let's say to another tribe or something, or themselves when they got back, it would just be like on the beginning, maybe they needed to mark down. Some people say that the dots on the horses are like the months of the year that they're migrating. But I think that it obviously, the detail in what they were, how they show these paintings and the time that they took when their resources were quite limited. I'm sure back then they had to hunt and forage, to survive. So the fact that they took the time to paint these beautiful murals on the wall are quite inspire me or make me wonder that maybe painting is a primal need. Like, we need to express ourselves as part of being human, instead of something invented during modernism. I don't know.
Could you see yourself finding a cave and painting it down below?
Yeah. Do you know one?
They're out there. I mean,
Yeah, they are out there. They're out there.
space in the caves. They just wait for a painting.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and then, it's all this is interesting.
So I have another question about the direction you were talking about going. This was new for you as far as taking up layers and lifting it up and preserving it, where maybe you're not as trained, right? You probably studied how to do that, but what were the emotions in you? What came up? Do you think about the longevity of a piece of artwork or
Archival element?
with that coming apart and falling apart in time?
Oh, the archival element you speak of.
Do you think of that, or are you
Yeah.
Let be what be?
No.
No.
No, I mean, there's a quote by some artist said, artists don't think archivally, but I mean, I do. I mean, I do and I don't. I'm not trying to prove a point that everything is destroyed in the end. But, so I do take care to make these last.
Were you nervous approaching that new kind of style of having those layers? Will it last? Will it come off? What happens if it comes off?
Yeah.
What did you explore with that?
Well, I've been using those for about 12 years. So I've used these paste. Kind of the reason I started painting like this is my mother. I gave her a painting as a gift, and She thought so much of it that she went and bought me tons of stuff, like, I don't know, thousands of dollars maybe worth of equipment. I mean, it was a one-off shot, but what am I going to do with iridescent colors of paints? All these mediums of molding paste, light molding paste, satin molding paste, the pumice, what else do I have? All kinds of ways to create texture. So I experimented and played and messed up a lot and gave paintings away, like as just gifts for people. And I mean, when I was traveling in Central America, I did the same, and then eventually started selling some. That's how my journey started. And then just like slowly picked up from there. So I have a lot of experience with pieces that have lasted a long time with these professional materials.
Awesome. But I think when I think of it, it's like, well, it's a cave, and the cave deteriorates over time and stuff. So if the canvas did or did not, that might be interesting.
It might, yeah, like up in the right corner of this, it's called crackle paste, and it's made to crackle when it dries. Yeah. So you see it, and that. Depending on which brand you get, and sometimes not even that, it doesn't really stay on. So I scraped as much that would come off. That's why you see like the negative space there, just to make sure that whatever is holding on can stay on. But if a piece fell off naturally, that would be kind of cool. It would add to it, kind of like the Banksy shredder painting.
Did you like that? The Banksy shredding painting?
Do I like?
Oh no.
Did I like it?
Yeah.
Loved it. I mean, it's like, yes. Wait, no, yes, no.
So was it your tame side or your untamed side that liked that?
I'll let you guess. Shoo.
Right on the hour, if there are any other questions, obviously if there are, please.
Oh, yes. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for coming and listening to me tonight. Thank you. Thank you.